You're listening to the #1 source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. #Conservarican. With no fuck left to give.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit it!
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The Julio Rivera Show is on.
And popping. Welcome to the Julio Rivera Show, #Conservarican for this Thursday, January 19th, 2017. Okay? This is the last full day of the Obama administration. This is a great day, people. You should all be excited that tomorrow at high noon in our nation's capital, Donald J. Trump will be sworn in as President of the United States of America. And God bless our country, our great country, the first free society in history that broke from the chains of tyranny. The last 8 years has been an unfortunate backwards spiral towards big government, and the American people rejected that this past November when they voted, and boy did they come out and vote. Over 60 million people voted for real hope and change. The 95 million people out of work. Think about that. Labor force participation as bad as it was under Jimmy Carter in the 70s. The part-time work week. That's really what we have now under Obamacare. And we're going to explore all of those things. We've got John Hawkins from Right Wing News this evening. We've got Professor Jeffrey Endicott, who's representing Mr. Christian Saucier of the United States Navy previously, who's the unfortunate victim of a double standard in regards to the handling of classified information. He's a shipmate as far as I'm concerned, and I'm lucky enough to have gotten to know his mother and be a part of trying to help in this fight. And it is a fight to try to get Christian Saucier home. But leading off, the Ricky Henderson of the show this evening on our Thursday, January 19th show, from Enigma Software. This guy is brilliant, and he's going to get into the particulars of this Russian hacking, the supposed Russian hacking, and a lot of other particular issues, because he's a great conservative, somebody I have a lot of respect for, and I've had a lot of great conversations with Mr. Alvin Estevez. How are you this evening?
how are you?
Well, we're happy to have you. You know, this has been a big thing, the narrative that's been pushed by the left. This whole, the Russians manipulated and influenced the election. What are your thoughts? First of all, off the top of your head, based on the industry that you're in, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on that is that the Russians are constantly hacking American utility companies, corporate facilities. You know, it's an active campaign, pretty much subsidized by the Russian government, to actually go after American assets. So this is an ongoing thing that the Russians have been doing, possibly for the last 20, or 15 or 20 years. I mean, this is something since the birth of the internet. This is something that they do on an active basis.
Okay, but when they do it, generally speaking, would you say it's more geared towards regular consumers and people of that nature, or do you think there's more of a concentration with larger businesses and government entities?
It's both. You got an entity that deals with government, deals with large corporations, but then you have another group which are more commercially based. Let's call them commercial hackers, for lack of a better word, who are more interested in defrauding the average person, getting access to bank accounts, getting access to their Facebook to do all kinds of malevolent stuff. So really what they want to do is get into individual machines, of individuals. They may use those machines, again, for commercial endeavors, or to hack larger targets on the internet.
Okay. Now, the one thing that I found curious, and I think it's a hilarious thing, because it shows, we joke around in the conservative community that liberals are lazy, if you want to use that, to say it in the nicest way possible, right? And I'm going to talk later a little bit about protecting your email in a different segment of the show. But DePodesta, who was the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton's campaign, literally used the word password as his password.
Wow.
I mean, a child could have hacked the DNC. What does that say, in your opinion, as a security expert? Where was the fundamental breakdown at the DNC?
Julio, I can't speculate, but I can tell you this, right? I know small companies that are concerned about security and will bring in some kind of a commercial security expert for a nominal cost to secure their, let's say, a small company network, or individuals who are more security conscious. We're talking about for pennies on the dollar, are conscious about protecting their password, adding anti-malware, stuff like that on their computers. But to think that the DNC, with all their resources, with access to the government itself, to a high-level IT, would have such a undersight like that is abysmal. I mean, I don't know how they're structured. I cannot imagine how they would do something like that. But that's just complete neglect, in my opinion, because that's a large organization. I'm assuming that they would have the best computer security experts money can buy secure their systems. Obviously, they just completely dropped the ball. It's ridiculous, So I cannot speculate how they will go about that. But obviously, there's a great degree of neglect in their part protecting their own data systems.
Yeah, that's pretty sad, considering the importance. They spent, Hillary Clinton's campaign, and this is a true fact, they spent $1.6 billion. So you're saying that this is a nominal cost. So they spent $1.6 billion on lawn signs, on travel, on commercials, on all kinds of things.
Yes.
But they didn't go the extra mile and spend a little bit extra to make sure that they didn't embarrass themselves. And the stuff that came out, let's swing it real quick for a second, because I know you're really into politics like I am, to the political side. They were talking about Taco Bowl engagement, racist Democrats. How do we get the Taco Bowl voters? They were making fun of black people's names. There was a Democratic operative that had, I can't remember what her name was, but it was not necessarily a common name. And these DNC operatives who were, I guess, insensitive and racist, they accused the right wing constantly. Their MO, their biggest selling point to the young and the the ignorant and the easily influenced is that if you're a right winger, you're racist. But meanwhile, they're engaging in horrific and disgusting talk, and that's during business too. It wasn't like this was private conversation captured by Project Veritas or some type of other intercommunication that was picked up by WikiLeaks. This was them on their business, their DNC emails.
Well, I can't comment really on what their worldview is. Obviously, we all read it. Yes, it's pretty. I like to use the word deplorable to us, but I'm going to reverse it back to them. It's deplorable upon them to say these horrible things. But right there is a fine example, of, again, going back to the computer security thing for 1 second. He's going to throw it in there. What happens when these hackers get into something like the Democratic Party, the DNC, and collect these kinds of documents and put them out there? Now, basically, because they were so neglectful of their computer security, now all that dirty laundry is all over the internet. So that's you're basically catching them with their pants down, because the hackers got in there. You got to see the true voice behind the scenes of how vile and disgusting they actually really talk in private. But they could have prevented that. I mean, I'm not a fan of them, but they could have prevented that by simply spending a nominal amount of money from the billions that they actually had to prevent that situation from happening. So could you imagine them running the government right now, those same people who are very neglectful of computer security? These are the people that would have been running this country, just so you know.
Well, they've been running it, they were running it for the last 8 years, and we've got $20 trillion in debt. Last year, and I don't know if you were aware of this, Alvin, we collected a record amount of revenue through taxation.
Yep.
Right? There were, it was $3.6 trillion that was collected. Even with that, they still ran a deficit of $600 billion because the government's overhead was $4.2 trillion. Trump is coming in here. It's an amazing number. Trump is coming in here, and I feel that history, in a sense, repeated itself with this election. Even with all the other extra stuff that was going on and the mainstream media trying to influence things in a certain way, historically, whenever the economy is bad, you'll have the voters will come out and reject the incumbent party. I was a little bit afraid because the mainstream media put a all-out assault on Donald Trump. And based on the fact that they were doing that, I thought that maybe Hillary Clinton perhaps would have had a shot to win, even though the economy was as bad as it was. What do you, as a businessman, let's just put that hat on for a minute.
Yeah, okay.
What is it that you want to see or would like to see Donald Trump do to try to maybe stimulate the economy a little bit?
Well, two things actually, and I think will make it very attractive to most business owners in this country. One, dropping the tax rate to 15%, that would be fantastic. Because basically, you make a buck, you pay 15 cents, you can keep your money in your business, reinvest it, make your business larger, hire more people and so forth. But the second thing, which very few people ever mention in the media, is regulations. I run an organization of 160 men and women, and let me tell you, the pile of stuff that I got to go through to just run my business, it's ridiculous, and that scares a lot of companies away. That's why they want to go to other countries and get out of here. It's the tax plus the overregulation, and I believe that Mr. Trump will do something with it. I think he said it many times. He wants to get rid of that. He wants to lower that regulation as much as humanly possible, make it easier for business owners to run their businesses, and he wants to get rid of, cut that tax rate to something a little more manageable. So that's fantastic. I mean, that's better than the rhetoric that we were getting from Obama when he used to say, "Well, this is not your business. You didn't build it." That was horrible. When I, as a business owner, I was offended when Obama did that. And to hear somebody like Trump, who's very pro-business, and you say, "Hey, everybody, bring the jobs back. Come back here to America. Put people to work here. We're going to cut you a break. We're going to cut your tax. We're going to reduce your regulations." That's something wonderful. That's so refreshing to finally hear something like that. So my views on it, provided that he does what he's actually saying that he's going to do, I think it's going to be the golden age of the United States, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely think we're in for a growth at the rate that we got it back in the 80s under Ronald Reagan. And this was actually done also in the 60s, a deregulatory and taxation cuts back in the 60s under Kennedy. So Kennedy had an idea economically how to be conservative and grow the economy under that. He did promise, and specifically, because I want to address it because you talked about regulations, he wants to come up with a law where for every new regulations, 2 have to be removed. Now, we're in a very overregulated climate. I think that would scratch the surface towards helping us. But I think the big burst, and these are the things that I think would help us a lot, would be what you mentioned, the 15% corporate tax rate. I think that we need that to hire people. And we have to eliminate the Obamacare mandate. Because how could you run a business and be afraid to hire more than 50 employees because the government is forcing you to maintain a certain level of health care for them? Listen, employment in the private sector is at will. You know, if you don't like what one job offers you, you have the freedom to go to another job. You know, the government can't dictate the terms in which private businesses hire people. That's what's destroying the economy. Hillary Clinton, in a speech in 2014, had the audacity to say, don't ever let anyone tell you that the private sector creates jobs.
Oh my God. the majority of the jobs are in the private sector.
Exactly. The job growth, the innovation, the new industries, it's always created by the private sector. The private sector is being choked by regulations and a progressive tax system that only truly benefits the major conglomerates. And the reason they do that is even though they'll maybe make a little less money, it crushes the opportunity for competition.
I agree with that. Mm-hmm. And you know, one other thing I want to throw in there, because since you got me on the subject, is back to that tax rate. You know, at 15%, there's another thing that most people may not realize. You know, most companies, especially in today's world, myself included, are very mobile, and we have offices all over the world. You know, and we could move in different parts of the world. And you know, I'll give you an example. Ireland, the tax rate in Ireland is 12.5%. Right? Very, very competitive. You know, England is about 20%. They want to drop it, actually. So America having a corporate tax rate of 35% does not make America very competitive. In fact, by dropping the tax rate at 15%, you may attract a lot of foreign companies who say, you know what, America's looking pretty good. I may want to put that factory or my company or my data center in the United States. You know, once you put America at 15%, it's competitive with many other parts of the world. So that actually not only just brings back American companies, which went abroad and say, let me go back to the United States, but that also may bring foreign companies who say, you know what, the United States is open for business. So that tax rate makes America very palatable.
You know what? We have the next 4 years and hopefully 8 years of continuous Republican, Republican White House. I do believe that Donald Trump is going to do a good job. I hope that he's able to deliver on all the promises that he's made. I think America needs it. America deserves it. And I want to thank you, Alvin, for coming on. Why don't you tell people where your website is and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, let me. My website is www.enigmasoftware.com, and we're the makers of a very popular anti-malware product called Spy Hunter. It's an anti-malware utility. It's built to remove malware. So if you ever get infected with some nasty stuff, if you use Spy Hunter, subscribe. It's a subscription-based service. This piece of software would literally clean it up, updates itself, keeps the machine clean. We deal with every possible form of malware, from phishing down to Trojans, you name it. So that's who we are. We have over 2.5 million subscribers worldwide, all over the world. It's a very effective piece of software. We operate everywhere in the world. So that's who we are.
Globalization is a good thing, or can be a good thing. Not the way that the liberals want to do it, though. Alvin, I want to thank you so much. God bless. I hope to have you on very, very soon. And after the break, we will... Definitely. And after the break, we will have Professor Jeffrey Endicott joining us. So please do not go anywhere. We'll be back after a short break.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Adam Marr, Apache helicopter pilot and COO of the Warrior Angels Foundation, a 501c3 with a superior treatment for our veterans suffering with TBI and PTS. We have found a solution that pinpoints and treats the underlying condition and are providing that solution for veterans across the nation, but we need your help. Go to waftbi.org to find out more. That's waftbi.org.
Politics got you down? Is your team in last place? Is your significant other sleeping with your neighbor? Well, cheer up. The Julio Rivera Show is on. Deal with your problems afterwards.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Hit it.
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Julio Rivera Show is on.
And popping here on Thursday, January 19th, 2017. As I stated previously, the last full 24-hour period for the Barack Obama train wreck of an administration. We're so excited that tomorrow is the swearing in of Donald Trump. And one reason that I'm very excited for that is, if you guys know me and you've been following me, I've been very committed to bringing awareness to the cause of one Christian Saucier. He's a shipmate as a former sailor myself. He was a first-class petty officer, a submarine sailor. He's a father to a 1-year-old baby. And unfortunately, because of double standards, he's currently serving a 1-year prison sentence for innocently taking 6 pictures aboard a submarine that he was attached to, that he took as a memento to show his children, his grandchildren one day. I wrote an article on my Newsmax blog, The Austere Constructionist, about this, and it was after the vice presidential debate where Tim Kaine had the audacity, when Vice President Pence, I guess we can call him that now, said that Kaine and Pence both have children that serve in the military, that Kaine knows full well that if either one of their children had mishandled classified documentation the way that Hillary Clinton did, that they would have been held to account. Hillary Clinton got off scot-free for crimes that I think are punishable by severe penalty. And this was nothing, and this poor guy is in jail as of right now for, I think, about another 10 and a half months. And to speak about that, right now we're so privileged to have Professor Jeffrey Endicott. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great.
All right. Now, give us a little update. What is going on right now with the Saucier case?
Yeah, I run a Center for Terrorism Law at St. Mary's Law School here in San Antonio, Texas, and part of our mission statement is we assist soldiers or military personnel that have been wrongfully accused of crimes or have been unjustly treated. So this case is right up our alley. And Chris, of course, his mom contacted me, and we looked at it and immediately decided we'd do everything we could to help. So he pled guilty before I got involved with the case. His attorney pled him guilty to various charges, and he received 1 year in a federal penitentiary. He started serving his sentence in October of 2016, and as you well know, what he did, as you indicated, everything on the submarine is classified, even a coffee cup in a mess hall. He took pictures at the lowest level of classification of where he worked, and other sailors that did the same thing on the same ship even received far less punishment.
Exactly. Yeah, I believe they received what, and because I was in the Navy, I remember that they received what's referred to as non-judicial punishment, which is basically you go to a kind of a military court. It's on your command. Your command decides your punishment. Generally, for the level of offense that Petty Officer Saucier committed, it would have resulted in a reduction of rank by 1 rank, and generally like a half month's pay. Am I right?
That's right. Your commander, we call it a captain's mass in the Navy, but the commander will simply call you in his office. He'll give you a form to sign, and when you admit what you did, then they will give you this non-judicial punishment, which is a minor punishment. One of these sailors actually was commissioned later on as an officer in the Navy. Neither of them were discharged from the Navy, but Chris had the misfortune of having his case hit at the same time that the Hillary Clinton issue was being aired in the public. And so the DOJ was taking a lot of criticism. Loretta Lynch for her non-concern about Hillary's involvement in the FBI. So what they did is the Department of Justice took the case from the Navy, and they decided to make Chris an example to demonstrate very disingenuously that they were concerned about classified information, and they basically crucified him on the altar of Hillary Clinton's sins.
Yeah, and this is a sailor that served with honor and pride for 11 years. This is a guy that was making this his career. That was his life. His life was the United States Navy. And when you give yourself to the military, that's a commitment that I think that a lot of people don't understand. So maybe when he was a younger sailor, because these pictures were taken back in 2009, right, 2009.
That's right. And he was a young sailor, and did some boneheaded things. But again, the level of punishment that he received is grossly disproportionate to what he did. And none of those photos ever left his phone. They never went to anybody. Contrast that with Bradley Manning. He intentionally released 1 million documents, and people were probably killed because of what he did. He happened to hit the perfect storm, and so they took his case. The Department of Justice took it from the Navy because both the Navy and the Department of Justice have jurisdiction when it comes to classified information. And usually, unless you're a super spy, the Department of Justice is not going to mess with you. They're going to let the military handle it. But that's exactly what happened. So I visited him in the penitentiary there at Fort Devens on the 3rd of January, and our only avenue of approach, our only hope now is to get a pardon and clemency from President Trump. And so we filled out the paperwork with him in prison there on the 3rd of January. I went to D.C. on the 9th of January. And so the Office of the Pardon Attorney is where these petitions go. And in the normal course of events, they do an investigation. Then it goes to the Attorney General, who makes recommendations to the President. Well, what we're hoping is that through advertising what occurred, that we can get President Trump to fast-track this and pick up the phone and tell the pardon attorney, I want this paperwork, do your due diligence, I want it on my desk in a week, so he can make a decision.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm really holding out hope that that's going to happen, because they've even spoken about that when they were on the campaign trail and the thank you tour. The issue about Christian has actually come up. Kathleen Saucier, his mother, has done a fantastic job bringing awareness to this issue. There's a lot of concern around it. People really want to see this man freed because they realize that he's part of the solution. He's a good guy. This wasn't something that was done in a negative way. This wasn't something where, and I believe one of the, I believe it was the prosecutor, I think that prosecuted the case, tried to insinuate somehow, which was ridiculous, that this was, that he collected, because it's a theme in this, this election cycle, that he was collecting information maybe perhaps for Russia or something ridiculous like that, I read.
Oh, yeah, they basically wanted his scalp, as I indicated, to demonstrate that, we're concerned about classified information. And if you just look at what he did and look at other people that did the exact same thing in 2011, and there's lots of sailors that have taken pictures that have never...
Oh, yeah, and I wanted to bring up this point, too. When he took the picture, if I'm not mistaken, it was during a period where cell phones were not even banned on submarines, correct?
That's right. The military allowed cell phones to be on the submarines. The photos were taken when the ship was in dock in an unclassified area in Connecticut, so they weren't out at sea. You couldn't give away your locations. So it's just hypocritical. When you have President Obama, freeing Bradley Manning, and yet, not doing anything in regards to a true hero. I mean, he did engage in misconduct, but as we indicated, this is non-judicial punishment stuff. This is stuff that the commander calls a guy in the office and says, "You idiot, I'm going to fine you," and then get back to work. That's not what happened to Chris.
How partisan do you think that this is, just based on the fact that, this is something that's got a cause that was, brought to light, in a lot of circles, by Republicans and conservative media outlets are covering this. Do you think that played into the Obama Department of Justice and Obama himself as an outgoing Democratic president? Do you think that maybe it was kind of a spiteful thing that they didn't look at, pardoning or commuting a sentence?
It's hard to tell. I mean, President Obama is fixated, has been fixated for years on, trying to get the people out of Guantanamo Bay that are real vicious murderers. And I just don't think he really cares. I don't think he cares. And, of course, tomorrow he's gone, and we're turning all of our attention towards President Trump. And you're right. President Trump has mentioned this issue on the campaign trail, so we're hopeful that, that he can fast-track this, get it to his desk. We have nothing to hide. Do a full investigation, have the Department of Justice look into it, the Attorney General, and any reasonable person can look at this case and go, we made a mistake here. This guy has been punished enough. He needs to be clemency needs to be granted now, and he needs to have his pardon now.
And just so the people who are at home listening, the reason that I got behind this cause to try to have him pardoned or have his sentence commuted so much is because you look at the man, he's a father, he's a husband, he's a good son, he's all those wonderful things, and it really just hurts and breaks my heart to know that he's suffering through this needlessly. So if you're listening, everybody that's listening can go to American Patriot Against Double Standards, which is the Facebook page. You guys can go there, get more information on it, share all the links. Kathleen's been on a lot of shows. You've been doing a lot of media as well. In closing, Professor Endicott, what are your last statements regarding this? And if there's a possibility that somebody that's on the transition team or somebody that's going to be associated with the administration, if you can present your case, go give me something on that for 45 seconds.
Sure. I mean, I served 20 years in the United States Army myself before I became a law professor. I was a senior legal advisor to all the Green Berets. I'm very familiar with what classified information is. I'm very familiar with the need for our military to follow the rules. And this individual should have been punished, but again, it should have been a non-judicial setting. What happened to him is unconscionable relative to what he did. And that's not justice. What we want is justice. We're turning a new page in this country now. We've seen too often the Department of Justice, the IRS, and other institutions have been misused by individuals for their own purposes. Justice means that there's fair and equal treatment for all people in the same situation. That's all we're asking for is justice. And justice demands that this individual be granted clemency and given a pardon.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. God bless you in your quest. And, we're all pushing for the same thing, and we're all trying to work towards this. God bless Chris, and hopefully he'll be out soon. Hopefully he'll be out the first week of the administration. Thank you so much for joining me, Professor Endicott. And hopefully, we'll have you on to celebrate when he gets out. And hopefully that'll be on an upcoming episode in a couple of weeks, we hope.
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
No problem. Thank you. And that was Professor Jeffrey Endicott. And listen, another minute here on the Saucier case. People do stuff when they're young and they're stupid. And it could be something, something like what he did. The cell phone was not banned from the submarine. He could bring the cell phone on the submarine. He didn't take pictures of anything that compromised national security. He basically it was just pictures of, okay, this is where I work. I want to keep these as a memento, as a keepsake. He wasn't a one and done type of sailor. He was a guy that he wanted to do a 20-year career. He wanted to be in. He wanted to retire. He deserves to get that back, man. It's not fair when they do that. And if you look at, maintaining a private server in the bathroom of your home in New York versus taking 6 pictures, that it's ridiculous and it's disproportionate and it's not fair. I want to give another minute because we did have Mr. Estevez on earlier, and I wanted to actually talk about. There's something very, very important that we all need to kind of know about. There's these phishing scams that are going on right now. I have Gmail. I think most of the country probably has a Gmail account. But there's a Gmail phishing scam right now that's stealing your login information. And I think everyone needs to know about this. You need to be very careful. What they're doing basically is they're sending you links They send you to a page that looks exactly like your Gmail login. No different. So you plug in your username, you plug in your password, and now boom, they've got it. And what they do with that information is they go through your contacts, they go through all your emails, they try to take any type of financial information that they can, and they trick your friends because they send your friends emails from your email, and basically what it says is it'll use in the title line of the email something that's familiar to them from a previous communication, and then boom, they can send you the link. And then you log in and they steal your information. We've seen what hacking has become now. It's huge in the news. Hacking, stealing of private information. It's a real serious issue. And what you need to do is you need to make sure that you're protected. If you get any type of links that look just like the Google, you need to go check the search bar. Because the search bar tells you everything. If it doesn't have the natural in the toolbar right there at the very top where you type in the web address, if it doesn't give you the information that it would normally show, then don't give it your credentials. Because one of the things that's really scary about this one in particular, if you have what's referred to as or Google, if you're doing it through Google, which is generally where people log in through their Gmail, they have an HTTPS security warning that would normally go off and let you know that something was going on. These people have become so sophisticated that you have no idea and no clue that this is actually happening, and you become victimized. Your information gets compromised. If you have a business Gmail account, that information and financial information can be compromised. It's very scary. So you guys really need to protect yourself. Previously, when I had Alvin on, he talked about his business, Enigma, and the Spy Hunter product. That's a great product. I actually just recently installed that on my computers. But really, take the extra step. This past Christmas, everybody got new cell phones, got new computers, got new tablets. You got to make sure that you protect yourself. On the other side of the break, a big treat. I love this guy. He's probably my favorite columnist. He's the founder of Right Wing News. He's a columnist for Town Hall, Right Wing News, and he's all over the media. The great John Hawkins will be joining us. So I don't want you guys to go anywhere.
Politics got you down? Is your team in last place? Is your significant other sleeping with your neighbor? Well, cheer up. The Julio Rivera Show is on. Deal with your problems afterwards.
Find the Lanterns Radio Network on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes.
They can intercept this transmission at any time, so I'll be brief. The fight is here. The time is now. Go behind enemy lines.
YouTube, and other social media by searching keyword Lanterns Buzz or Lanterns Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Adam Marr, Apache helicopter pilot and COO of the Warrior Angels Foundation, a 501c3 with a superior treatment for our veterans suffering with TBI and PTS. We have found a solution that pinpoints and treats the underlying condition and are providing that solution for veterans
Warrior Angels
across the nation. But we need your help. Go to waftbi.org to find out more. That's waftbi.org.
You're listening to the #1 source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. #Conservarican. With no fuck left to give.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit it!
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Julio Rivera Show is on.
And we are popping on this Thursday, January 19th, 2017. the day before the administration takes over, the Trump administration. Conservatives and Republicans have been fighting for the past 8 years the extreme progressive policies of one Barack Hussein Obama. In 2010, they fought by taking the House of Representatives back. In 2012, we didn't get the correct guy on there to actually go for the presidency. And unfortunately, due to that fact, we actually lost a winnable election where our economy was struggling. Things happened. In 2014, we took the Senate. But we needed the big seat. Because I don't trust, personally, I do not trust this Congress to get the job done. We're waiting on John Hawkins. And John, if you're watching, you're calling the DC number. Because I think you just tried to contact me on my regular number. And I just want to get my producer in here. Can you come in here, my producer? We're speaking in codes. Madeline? Yes. Okay. No pickup on either. No. Hold on 1 second. 202-738-4140 if you're watching. So we're going to have John. We're going to figure that out, and John will be on in a little bit, I'm sure. But in the interim, I want to talk about my plans. I'm driving down to D.C., and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be there shortly in a couple of hours. And I'm so excited to actually be in D.C. for this because it's history. You know, this is the first time I've ever been there for an inauguration, a swearing. That actually means a lot to me as an American because this is what the process is all about. You know, you sit there, you go through the entire election cycle. And listen, I started, and I see Terry Cooper there in the comments. I'll see you tomorrow, Terry, and I can't wait. It's going to be spectacular. It's going to be so much fun. You know, you go through the entire process. I started as a chairman for the county for Senator Ted Cruz. I was very involved in the early stages of that primary, helping out. I traveled to a lot of different states. It was a real grind. But at the end of the day, we came up short. You know, and due to the fact that we came up short, it's not the biggest deal in the world to come up short if at the end of the day you wind up winning. And we did win in a sense because Donald Trump is president. And Donald Trump being president is a bigger deal than you think. Because at the end of the day, he's going to bring changes that we would have never gotten under Hillary Clinton. Whether you think he's your perfect conservative or not, we've got to be happy. You know, we've got to be happy that we've got him here. And it looks like we're about to bring on John now. So I'm sorry about that for everybody. And I know most of you guys were probably listening in just to see John Hawkins. Because honestly, I probably would have as well. And here he is, Mr. Hawkins. How are you?
I am fantastic. I called in. Sorry, for whatever reason, the calls were not going through.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what happened there, but I'm glad we got you on. Now I'm ecstatic to have you on the show. Now, you recently had a birthday and you recently traveled to Europe. Now, what was that like?
Well, you know, I have never been overseas before.
Really?
So I figured, hey, it's
Wow.
time to rectify that. So I spent a week in London, spent a day in Paris. London's phenomenal.
Really?
Can't say enough good things about it. Paris is kind of like the, I don't know, ugly cousin of London.
Really? The ugly cousin?
Trashier, gaudier.
I hear it's a lot of fun, though, depending on what part of Paris you go in. I don't know about that, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's winter, too. I mean, I went, this is as off-season as it gets, which, man, everything was cold. It wasn't as pretty as it was in the summer. Of course, there wasn't as many lines, either. You know, I got pictures in front of the Mona Lisa. We were there on the front row.
Really?
You know, because we pictures we want. Yeah. Normally, I mean, it's a room. When you go in to see the Mona Lisa in the Louvre, you're talking about a room with usually, like in the summer, you have like 150 people stuffed in there trying to take pictures. There were maybe 20 in there. So we were able to work our way in 5 minutes right up to the front of the line, take pictures. And it's like that everything. We had very little wait getting into any of the attractions. So nice. I got to tell you, their food, a lot better than I heard. Nice, clean city. The women are pretty, Their metro is amazing. Best subway I've been on. Every 2 minutes there's another train.
Wow.
It's amazing how they just crank them out. I really like that city a lot. Great city. It's right. I mean, if you want to talk about great cities in the world, San Francisco, New York, and London, London's right up there with them.
All right. Well, fantastic. I want to talk to you though, because you're a respected member, and like I said, I always tell people, anybody who will listen, that I love John Hawkins and all his columns. I think you're very creative, and I think you're a brilliant conservative mind. But the conservative media came up in a big way through social media and on TV and through all those different outlets, grew really huge. And I think response to Barack Obama and the frustrations that the American people were feeling. Ultimately, the guy that they said couldn't win the election came out and wound up winning the elections. How, and I know that you weren't maybe the biggest Trump supporter, and neither was I. I mean, I was a Cruz supporter. They kind of adopted Trump for this one, because I knew that it was the best thing for America. Now, you know what? I'm actually very excited for the fact that we're going to inaugurate a Republican with an incumbent Republican Congress, because I think we can get some things done here. But how big, because people talk about the fake media, the alternative media, the alt-right, the this, the that. How influential do you think that was in getting the guy that couldn't win in the big chair?
Well, I think the social media aspect of it was enormous. I got to tell you, I don't think without, let's say, Facebook, Donald Trump would have been the nominee in the first place. I have this belief, and I've just gotten this opinion from doing, I run one of the biggest conservative Facebook pages out there, 3.4 million people. And what I've discovered is there's a large number of conservatives on Facebook who don't interact with normal conservative pages. They're not what you'd call, they're sort of instinctively conservative. They don't read National Review. They're not really all that ideological. They like God, guns, and America. And those people love Trump. Trump is the one guy who just hit the right notes for those people. And I think he activated a lot of them. He managed to get working class white Americans to vote like a minority group. That's one thing he managed to do. And he activated those people. And it was enough to get him through the primary because it was so split. And then I have to tell you, now this is me personally, I think pretty much everybody we would have run would have won. I'm serious. I think Mike Huckabee would have won. I think Ted Cruz would have won. I think, John Kasich would have won. I think all of them would have won. But the guy who got in there was Trump. He managed to make it through. And as it turned out, Hillary Clinton was just a truly horrible candidate. It's tough for anybody to come out and win after you've already had somebody in there for 8 years, because the American people like to cycle through. And then you got to see, you had the FBI problems, her health problems, and she lied all the time. She has no charisma. She's so crooked. The Clinton Global Initiative, the Clinton Foundation Global Initiative, is already shutting down because it's a pay-for-play thing. It's foreign governments give them money, and then they're hoping, well, she'll be president and she'll do things for us. Oh, she's not going to be president. We don't need to give them any money anymore. So, you look at all that. She is such a bad candidate. She's worse than Dukakis, worse than Mondale. And I think just really she went out there and lost this thing. And Trump, and I'll say one more thing about Trump, he says a lot of dumb things and obnoxious things. And even people who love him will admit that. But he mixes that, and it makes everybody underestimate him. He also will say something really stupid, and you're like, oh, this guy's an idiot. And then like a day later, he's doing something that's 3 steps ahead of the curve. And that's the tricky thing about him. He does some really brilliant stuff on the media and marketing side. He's got a real knack for hitting the things that people talk about and are interested in that the regular politicians aren't hitting. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens once he gets in there. I have some concerns about the guy, but I also say, hey, he's got a lot of Republicans in his administration. We got a Republican House, Republican Senate. I don't know how he's going to do. I'm not that confident in him overall, but I'm hoping we get some good. Some good will come out of it too. Definitely Hillary Clinton, no good was going to come out of it, so maybe some good will come out of this too.
Well, I want to talk about something else real quick because you brought up Hillary Clinton. I want to just go into this thing because now they're saying they're trying to draft her supposedly now to become the mayor of New York. And I'm looking at this, and you can tell me, what you think as another pay-for-play scheme. So what is she going to try to do now? She's going to try to get, like, mob payments or something, for favorable construction contracts or God knows what. Like, how is she going to pimp the next office that she tries to run for? And the unfortunate thing is you've got Democrats in actually New York that are saying now that she should run because she would be able to primary out de Blasio. And listen, I'm not here to defend de Blasio. I think de Blasio is flawed. But if they leave him alone, I think that we could probably get a Republican governor in there. What do you think about that?
Well, whether it's de Blasio or Hillary, it's still going to be a far left-wing administration. Hillary's probably more crooked than de Blasio, and de Blasio's probably more naturally left-wing than Hillary even. So, I don't know. To me, it's kind of a wash. If they want Hillary in there, whatever. I don't care. New York is tough for us to win a state anyway. Maybe we could sneak somebody in there, but hard to say. I mean, you know what? I mean, honestly, Hillary is so unpopular that you can't really just say for sure she'd win. I mean, let's face it. She lost to Obama, then she lost to Trump. She is a truly awful candidate. I mean, even liberals, I know there's a number of people who are out there, she's the most wonderful, amazing, beautiful, great person ever. But a lot of people are so sick of her. Even on the left, they're like, oh my gosh, we're so glad the Clintons are out of here. We just can't stand her. And I think there'd be a certain amount of that going in. So I'm not 100% sure which would be the stronger candidate if it actually got down with a viable Republican.
And you know what? It's different. The one thing I've noticed is that when you look, and it's unfortunate, and this was something that came up, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Scott Garrett, who was a real hardcore conservative in the 5th Congressional District where I live in New Jersey. He happened to lose to basically a Clintonite, Josh Gottheimer, who was a former Clinton speechwriter. They put a ton of money behind him, and they ran a really ugly campaign where they, called Scott Garrett a bigot and, every name in the book. The Republican, they used the whole Republican boogeyman playbook. He's anti-women, he's anti-gay, he's anti-this, he's anti-that, and they got Garrett out. And it's scary because he was, according to Conservative Review and the Heritage Foundation, a plus 80 conservative. He was a unicorn, rather, in the northeastern United States. And he lost. And then you look at the conservative scores of a lot of these guys that are congressmen in New Jersey, congressmen in New York, Massachusetts, the supposed, we like to call them rhinos or what have you. Do you think that true hardcore, like red state style conservatism is dead in the Northeast?
I don't know that it's dead 100%. It sort of depends on the district, but I think the country's getting more polarized. And with the country getting more polarized, one, you've seen that on the Democrat side. All the blue dog Democrat districts have gone red. Just the vast majority of them. And I think you're seeing the flip side of that. I mean, we're getting to the point, if you listen to liberals, where their basic thing is, oh, you disagree with us, then you're a bigot Nazi. I mean, there's no middle ground. There's either you agree with us or you're Hitler. So I think when you have that mentality, it's like anybody who's Republican, I don't care if they're Olympia Snow or Susan Collins, they're too Republican for them. They're Nazis, they're bigots, and it's just the kind of way they think. So I think we're going to see more of that, where you're going to see an even more polarized country over time, and the districts are probably going to go that way too. It's tough for them for the Republicans to crack into that Northeast. I think they would have to run squishier Republicans up there. I mean, that's pretty much their best bet, and just to try to pick some more of those off.
Well, you know what? Tomorrow, the new chapter, we're going to see what we get. We're going to see whether or not, the people who are opposed to Trump within our own ranks were right or not, whether or not he's actually going to deliver. I sleep well at night. Let me tell you something, John. I got no problem sleeping at night having supported Trump after Cruz lost in the primary, because I know regardless of anything else, he was going to be better than Hillary Clinton, and we get to start a new chapter, and better obviously than Obama. I mean, Hillary Clinton even would have been probably better than Obama, but we start fresh tomorrow. Quick 30 seconds, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what do you want to see go first?
Well, the tough thing for him is going to be that he's made a lot of big promises, and a lot of them he can't keep without Congress, and the Democrats are not going to work with him on anything. And some of the Republicans, guys like John Kyle, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, aren't necessarily going to be that cooperative either. And it's going to depend. I don't know how Trump's going to, I don't know how ideologically conservative he is. So I guess we're going to see. I'd love to see, I mean, personally, I'd love to see him cut some of the bureaucracy, fire some government employees. I'd love to see him build that wall. That's something he talked about a lot. I'd love to see him roll back Obama's executive orders, get a replacement for Obamacare in there that's not single payer. So I'd love to see him do that, and I think there's a lot of Republicans who are hoping he'll do that, and they're going to try to guide him in that direction, and we'll see what happens. I'm hoping for the best.
All right, well, you got it there from Mr. John Hawkins. Thank you so much for joining us. It was great to have you as always. You're a regular on the show, and we hope to have you on in the future again many more times. Why don't you tell everybody, what is it, Right Wing News, and you write a column for Town Hall, and what is your Twitter so people can get you?
John Hawkins, RWN.
John Hawkins, RWN. You heard it there. Thank you, everyone who listened, who watched on Facebook. The Julio Rivera Show, #ConservaRican. What a great show. John Hawkins, Professor Jeffrey Endicott, and Alvin Estevez. Tomorrow, catch my social media. I will be live tweeting the inauguration as it happens. Thank you, and God bless.